Hello and welcome to Let's Talk, a series of podcasts produced by the Hazel and Betty Ford Foundation on the issues that matter to us and the issues that matter to you. Substance use disorder, prevention, treatment, research, and recovery support. I'm your host, William Moyers. We're on the road with Let's Talk. We're here at the Betty Ford Center in Rancho Mirage, California. Thank you for joining us. And our guest today is none other than singer and songwriter Johnny Solomon. Welcome, Johnny.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here today to share your personal journey with us, a journey of hope, I think is one of the ways we like to describe it. There was a time when you were hopeless in your life. Tell us.
Yeah. No, there was a big stretch of my adult life where things were a little bit bleaker than they were or than they are right now.
Because why?
I was addicted to alcohol and methamphetamine. For a long period, I was also undiagnosed bipolar.
Yes.
And I was trying to juggle everything and come up with all the reasons why it wouldn't be alcohol or drugs. You know, had to be anything else other than that was the problem. But
to that point, I mean, you did have undiagnosed mental health challenges. And do you think you were probably or perhaps medicating?
Oh yeah, I was definitely self-medicating. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like the integrated nature of the whole thing.
Yes.
You know, it's hard to separate out where one began and the other ended. So I kind of look at it because I was able to. When I'm a Hazelden alum, and when I was in Hazelden, they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder, and so like it all happened at the same time. Where I got onto medication, I got sober, I started living in the program, and so I kind of look at it as a package deal for me. Yeah. It was like I got it
double
all
winner.
At once. Yeah,
the double winner.
Yeah, exactly.
Diagnosed with a substance use disorder and diagnosed with bipolar.
Yeah.
And you got your addiction to alcohol and other drugs under control while you were in treatment, and then did the treatment for your mental health issues come after that, or?
Yeah, it kind of has always been. It's an ongoing thing. I think that's what has been kind of a gift for me in recovery is that because bipolar disorder is a lifelong disorder, just like substance use.
Right.
I have to be aware. I have to be very self-aware, and so it in some ways it's helped my recovery to also have the bipolar disorder because I have to rely on support and I have to trust the people around me. And I mean that was a little bit hard for a person like me. I had an ego that was pretty high up there.
You too, huh?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're the only ones, but yeah. So, going in, once I was open to the idea that there was another way to live, I had to kind of be open to everything around me and open to the support. And that's kind of where I still find my hope. Even though life is so much better for me now, I still get to every day rely on other people to help me with my journey in mental health or recovery.
Well, we often talk about the fact that addiction, substance use disorder, or mental illness, those are illnesses of isolation, and the antidote to it is community, being with other people.
Yeah.
So let me step back just a little bit, because you are a singer and a songwriter, the founder of Communist Daughter, lifelong musician. Which came first for you, a love of music or a love of substances?
So I would say that the love of music came first, but the way I loved music was the same way that I loved substances, the way it transcended my where I was at the moment. So to me, the high I got from playing music, suddenly I found another thing that was also like, ooh, I can take this and get high as well. And it started to supplant making music. It's been a really interesting life because it's been so intertwined that there was a lot of soul searching when I was trying to unwind it from substances.
So you had this dynamic of
Yeah.
a ball of string, and you had
Yeah.
to unparse it, right?
Yeah.
You had to
and
parse
if you
it.
pull
Yeah.
too hard on one, it just tightens
Right.
up.
So you did that, and you loved music, and you loved substances, and all of a sudden you gave up those substances through
Yeah.
treatment. You disclosed to Hazel, and you talked about, and yet you still love music, and you're still good at music. Was it hard to put the substances down and be as good a musician, or be the musician you wanted to be?
You know, I think the thing that came back. So there's a lot of things that you get back when you stop using substances. When you're a musician that relies on substances, a lot of musicians use it because you have a lot of self-doubt, you have a lot of anxiety. It's just something that I think a lot of artists share, and so you get into using substances to mask those things. And when you take that away, you have to come full circle and face these issues and really decide what you're going to do about them. And so I had to face myself and decide, like, okay, you have this self-doubt. What are you going to do about it? And luckily, without substances, you can actually sit down and work on things, and you can be, you can progress in that journey. And I was able to build my self-esteem, and there were hard things, like. I used to think that music was like this. It was this magic that came out of the air and like, just blessed me with the song. And I still have this feeling of that, except for now I know that there's a lot more of me involved in the process. Where before I was take drugs, take alcohol, and I'd wake up in the morning and be like, hey, look, I did this thing. It was magical, and but now I know I can work, and there's a certain bit of my own skill involved in this, and something that it gave me pride to be able to work on things and to take ownership of my music, of my art.
So you were a good musician while you were using.
Yeah, I mean,
you accomplished.
Yeah, when I was in Hazelden.
What year was that?
2010. Mm-hmm. So I was in Hazelden, and that's when we were we were in the paper. Like, we had songs on. I actually had some songs on Grey's Anatomy TV show while I was in treatment. So I mean, I definitely had a moment where I was like, well, maybe. That was the magic. Maybe substances
was the magic.
Yeah, maybe that's the key to what I do.
It was a myth, though.
Yeah, for sure.
So how'd you knock that down?
Well, it took a while for my self-esteem to catch up with everything else. So my success kept going after the substances, and in fact, and I've told friends of mine who also had substance issues that were musicians. It was like the only way I was able to succeed was because I gave up substances. Because there is a certain amount of work that you have to do to be an artist. And even though the self-doubt was there, if I just kept doing the work, much like doing the work in recovery, if you just keep doing it, it
works if you work it.
Yeah, and you get to a place suddenly where you can look back, and I can look back and say, like, oh, most of my success today and for a long time has happened after I got sober. So as much as, there is this myth, and maybe that's part of my addiction brain that's like, ooh, look at that magic you struck when you were using. It's, well, I've hit that magic a couple times now, so.
You sound like Eric Clapton. I mean, he was an accomplished guitar player, rock and roll god, and go ahead.
Can I use that as a quote, that you say that I sound like Eric Clapton?
Sure. Sure, as long as you attribute to me and I get 10% of your royalties. No, but seriously, he was an accomplished guitar player, musician, recognized. He found recovery, and he's still an accomplished musician. You did the same thing. You were well known, established, talented before. You put the substances down, and you're even more creative and accomplished now.
Yeah, and the thing that I think has been the biggest journey for me was that I got to enjoy the life that I had. That as an artist, when you're living on that edge, using substances and kind of putting your self-worth in that art and those substances, you don't get the chance to enjoy your life. It's from that point when I was sober, I had my daytime back, which is something that I hadn't had in a while. And I got to tour, I got to meet fans, I got to really experience real connection with people, and those are the things I would not have had if I had continued using substances. In fact, actually, some of my biggest breaks have happened because I was sober. And I met one of my friends, Jason Isbell, who's sober, and he's, if you consider me successful, then he would be like 10 times more successful than me. But we met because we were both recently sober musicians, and we just started talking about what it's like to be sober musicians. And every year I still go out on tour with him, a few dates a year. I mean, not regularly like his.
But you're getting out there with him.
Yeah, he still calls us once in a while, and that's really nice, because to me that was two musicians who were recently sober,
right,
who just connected, and then every year we still play a couple shows.
It seems like there's two pathways that musicians who have addiction follow. One is to the bottom of death, whether you're Tom Petty or Prince or Jim Morrison or Janis Joplin, or find recovery and continue to perform music. Eric Clapton and the man we just talked about. On the other hand, though, there are not too many sober musicians who then take it to the next level like you have, as it relates to what you decided to do with your professional life, vis-a-vis become a counselor. Share it with us.
So I guess in some of those things that, because I toured a lot, as a musician, I really got to experience some height of success that a lot of musicians didn't. And actually being on the road with Jason a little bit, and as he got bigger and we'd play with him, I got to see what it would be like. And I realized that my passion is in writing music and recording music, and I realized that in my life, my passion has been more about mental health and recovery. And so about 2 years ago, we got off the road, and I decided that I was going to check in. This is my brain is still thinking check into Hazelden, but I checked into Hazelden Graduate School. And
our graduate school for addiction studies.
Yeah, and so I enrolled in graduate school, and I will be graduating here in a few days.
Bravo. A few days being in April of 2019. Bravo. But it's more than that. You've also got a job.
Yes.
Can you share with your fans?
Yeah. So
first time, by the way. Let's Talk podcast is the first to break this big news.
Yeah, I haven't told people because, there is a lot of questions that people have, like, oh, are you going to keep doing music? And there is still, that little bit of me, that self-worth of like, am I interesting without my guitar?
You are so far today.
Yeah, so far. Yeah, we'll see. How long is the podcast? So I took a job. I've really enjoyed working with underserved populations, and getting licensed as a clinical counselor or an addiction counselor, you have to do a certain number of hours. Right. And so I had an opportunity to go become an itinerant therapist in Alaska.
What does that mean, an itinerant therapist?
So I will be flying in bush planes to villages above the Arctic Circle to do assessments and therapy and addiction substance use therapy with native populations up there. There's no roads that go to these villages, so everything has to be in and out. And I'll be based at a hospital above the Arctic Circle and just flying in and out. My wife was all in for this, so I know people out there are probably like,
you're still going to be, though, but you're still going to be able to do music.
Yes, and we have an album that's close to the coming out. We've been talking with labels, and I mean the music stuff still exists. And like I said, when we just in September did some tour dates, and that was with Jason. We did a couple, and it is a thing where it's like I know now, especially in the age of internet, and my music, to me, the connection is writing the music and getting the music out there to people, and we're still, like we've had songs on TV shows recently, and I'll still probably make it out on the road a few times. Maybe not the 200 dates a year that I was doing, but
you'll be out on the road. You'll still be writing and producing, performing music,
yeah.
And you'll also be helping people who might not otherwise have an opportunity to get the help of a professional. You'll have your master's, right?
Yeah, my master's.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm actually even considering going on.
Yeah.
School agreed with me, so
cool.
Yeah, when I got sober, when I was not sober, my life was like heading towards one direction. And once I got, that direction was down. But once I got sober, it opened up all these opportunities that I didn't even realize that I had. Like the thought of me getting my master's degree and doing this,
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah. I couldn't have dreamed of it in a million years.
From adversity comes opportunity.
Yeah. That's why you're the writer.
Well, that's why you're the singer, the performer. But we only have a minute or two, Johnny. Tell me about the role that your wife has played in your journey.
I talked about the support that I have to rely on, and the person that has been there with me from the moment that I had the first inklings that maybe I should get sober was Molly, my wife, and she, through her strength, which some of that included not putting up with me for various periods, it got me to kind of see myself and see what I needed, and she went to the family program when I went to Hazelden, and we have been together since I got out of Hazelden, and we got married, and she has been like the main thing in my life, the number one support and direction, I guess, for me. It's like I look to her as inspiration for what the kind of person I want to be, and she's the person I trust to tell me when I'm not acting the way that I want to act.
So you see that camera right over there. Why don't you tell her?
Molly, I love you. It is the reason. Yeah, she really is the reason. It's great. Like there's this magazine here.
Article, the Together magazine with you on the cover.
Yeah.
Should we hold it up here?
Yeah, that's. But they took a great photo of my wife, and I have a photo.
Oh, is it in here?
It's probably in there somewhere.
There's not one of me in here. Oh, there you are again. There you are again. But
I like to get, yeah.
One more. I've been told that it's one. Oh, there she
is. Yeah, that's
there
the
she
one.
Is. That's Molly.
Yeah, and I have that hanging up. It's one of my favorite photos, and it really does kind of encapsulate. I'm kind of leaning on her shoulder there. So.
And the point of it is that addiction is an illness that affects all the family.
Yeah.
And recovery is not just about the person who has the illness, but it's about the family member too. And she's hung in there.
Yeah, she went to the family program. She's gone to Al-Anon, and
she does her part for her.
Yeah.
We got to close, but before we do, I want you to leave our audience today with a message, because yours is a very powerful story. You can be creative in recovery, but yours is a story that you can recover from more than one chronic illness. Mm-hmm. You've had the double whammy, and you've done it. Leave our viewers and our listeners with who might be struggling today with mental illness or with substance use disorder or both. Leave them with a message.
It's, I guess, to me, the way that I look at it is once I accepted that recovery was possible, it became a blessing in my life. If you changed the perspective that you have about the illness, substance use, and bipolar or whatever mental illness, it can become the driving force in your life to become a better person.
you've done that. You've proven it with your own life. So,
Thank you.
Johnny Solomon, thank you very much for being with us today and sharing your story of hope, for standing up and speaking out as a man in recovery, as a musician in recovery, and soon to be a counselor in recovery, helping other people. I can think of no better story than yours. So thank you for being here today, Johnny.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks to all of you for being here too. On behalf of our executive producer, Lisa Stangl, and our great crew from Blue Moon Productions, I'm your host, William Moyers. We hope you'll join us again for another edition of Let's Talk.